He came to build a school and collapsed before he could say a word. What he didn't expect was to find a woman who didn't care who he was and who would change his life forever. Beneath the high noon sun in the quiet town of Brookmere, the townsfolk had gathered for the groundbreaking ceremony of a new elementary school. The guest of honor, a sharply dressed man with salt and pepper hair and sharp blue eyes, took the stage. Everyone whispered his name, Damien Wexler, the mysterious millionaire who'd promised to fund the town's biggest hope. But as he reached for the microphone, his hand trembled, his face paled, and in front of a hushed crowd he collapsed to the ground, unconscious. At Brookmere Clinic, Nurse Calla Monroe rushed through the narrow hallway in scrubs slightly too big for her petite frame. Her dark curls bounced as she moved swiftly, eyes sharp with urgency. When the ambulance wheeled in the mystery man, she didn't flinch. She didn't ask who he was. To her, he was just a patient in need. While the staff whispered, "That's Damien Wexler," Calla focused on stabilizing his vitals and preparing for what she suspected was a cardiac event. The attending physician hesitated. This wasn't a big city after all. But Calla had studied this exact emergency. As the patient's vitals dipped, she confidently performed a needle decompression. A tense silence filled the room. Then a gasp of air escaped his lips. He was alive. Calla exhaled only when she saw color return to his cheeks. Her heart pounded, not because of who he was, but because she had saved a life, just like she was trained to. When Damien awoke the next morning, it wasn't to the sound of luxury or assistance, but to the buzz of a faulty ceiling fan and the earthy scent of antiseptic. Calla stood by his bed, arms crossed. "You're lucky you made it," she said, checking his IV. "Don't try to talk. You've got more healing to do than you think." She didn't ask for his autograph or marvel at his name. For the first time in years, Damien wasn't someone important. He was just a man recovering in a tiny rural clinic. Damien, tired of being reduced to a bank account, decided to stay in Brookmere under a different name, just Dale. No press, no entourage. When Calla asked what he did, he simply said, "Consulting mostly." She didn't pry. She appreciated privacy herself. The townspeople, unaware of his real identity, treated him as one of their own. He rented a modest room above the bakery, sipping black coffee and quietly watching the town he once saw as a charity case. Calla had seen men like him before. Big promises, bigger exits. Her father was once an idealistic mayor, promised funding by the rich, and left humiliated when those promises dried up. She didn't care about fame or fortune anymore. She valued presence over promises. "Don't talk about what you'll do," she once told Dale while they painted the school's fence. "Just do it, or don't." Her words stuck with him more than any corporate motto ever had. Brookmere was small but full of heart. Kids played barefoot in dusty alleys. Elders shared stories on creaky porches, and the half-finished school, Sunrise Elementary, stood like a dream halfway realized. Dale walked its grounds daily, volunteering to haul lumber, push paint, and hammer frames. People started to say, "That Dale fellow's a good guy," unaware he was the one whose wallet once funded half the project. One April night, dark clouds rolled in, rain came down like bullets, winds howled. Trees snapped, and half the school roof tore free. Dale didn't hesitate. He joined townsfolk at midnight, lashing tarps, nailing boards. Calla found him hours later, soaked to the bone but still working. She wrapped him in a wool blanket and said quietly, "You're not like the others." A week after the storm, Dale invited Calla to sit with him beneath an old ash tree behind the clinic. "You ever think people can change?" he asked. "Not for show, but really change?" She looked at him for a long moment before saying, "Only if they stop performing and start participating." He smiled. He didn't need anyone else to see it, just her. When the classroom walls were repainted and the new roof stood strong, Dale and Calla stood side by side, admiring the finished work. "We did this," she said. He turned to her, eyes soft. "You showed me how." Their lips met, not in passion, but in quiet understanding, a union of two people who had finally been seen. The secret couldn't last forever. One morning, an old friend of Damien's from the city arrived in Brookmere. He greeted him with a booming, "Damien, you sly dog," right in front of Calla. Her eyes didn't widen. Her mouth didn't drop. She simply said, "I knew." He blinked, stunned. "You knew," she nodded. "I Googled you the day you arrived. But I judged you by your work, not your name." Her honesty shook him more than any scandal could have. Later that evening, Dale, now Damien again, found her at the half-finished school library. "I'm sorry for hiding who I was," he said. "It's just, I wanted to be enough without my bank account." Calla set down a box of donated books. "You are," she said. "But trust goes both ways. It wasn't a forgiveness, but it was a beginning." When news spread about Dale's true identity, reactions in Brookmere were mixed. Some felt betrayed. Others didn't care. "He built our school," one mother said. "I don't care what he's worth," but the whispers didn't stop. Damien could feel the weight of his old name creeping back. Calla pulled away, not out of anger but self-protection. "I've had promises made with pretty words," she told her sister, "and they always end when the cameras leave." Her heart wanted to believe him, but her mind remembered every time she had been left behind. One morning, Damien received a crumpled letter from a third grader named Jody. It read, "Thank you for our school. I want to be a nurse like Miss Calla and help people like you do." It brought tears to his eyes. This was why he stayed. Instead of pushing, Damien showed up. Every day, he painted, he cleaned, he hosted a free breakfast booth outside the school. "Trust is built in bricks, not balloons," he once told a local reporter who came sniffing for a headline. "And this town deserves a fortress." Calla watched him plant flowers in the school courtyard. "You know nothing about gardening," she teased. "Not true," he smiled. "I'm just better with guidance." She picked up a trowel and joined him. Their hands touched in the soil. It was the first time she smiled at him in weeks. At the Brookmere Spring Picnic, Damien organized a fundraiser booth, not for publicity, but to help the local animal shelter. Calla watched from a distance as he sold lemonade and told bad jokes to kids. "He doesn't even know the cameras aren't here," she whispered to her sister. Calla invited Damien for dinner one evening. Her turn to reveal something. She showed him a faded photo of her father beside a broken community center. He died waiting for a check that never came. Damien reached across the table and gently held her hand. "Then let's write him a new ending." Damien started a quiet fund under the name Brookmere Rising. It wasn't advertised, but over time broken playgrounds were repaired, the clinic got new equipment, and a scholarship opened for future nurses. Calla found the paperwork one night. "You didn't put your name on any of this," she said. "Didn't need to," he replied. Just when things were finally good, Damien received an offer, a major position back in the city. His assistant begged him to return. He packed a suitcase. Calla said nothing, but that night she left a note on his porch. "Don't build something halfway, Damien. Not again." The next morning he unpacked his bags. In front of the whole school, he announced, "I'm not leaving. I've found where I belong, and I'm staying." The applause was deafening, but all he saw was Calla in the back row, smiling with tears in her eyes. Their romance was never loud. No dramatic confessions, no showy gestures, just shared dinners, walks to the clinic, and evenings reading by candlelight. In those quiet moments, Calla realized, this man had stopped trying to impress the world. He just wanted to build a home, under the ash tree where they first connected. Damien knelt on one knee with a simple silver band. "Calla Monroe, you changed my life. You reminded me what it means to build something real. Will you build a life with me?" She didn't speak. She just kissed him. They married on the steps of Sunrise Elementary, the school that brought them together. Kids tossed petals. The community turned out in droves. There was no designer dress or velvet carpet, just joy, just love, just a town saying thank you. A year later, their daughter, Laya, was born in the very clinic Calla once worked in. With big brown eyes and her mother's curls, she became the heart of Brookmere. Damien often whispered to her, "Your mom saved me." Twice, Damien no longer wore suits. He built furniture with his hands. Calla started a community health program. Their love became a story the town told often, not of riches, but of roots, of what can happen when people stop pretending and start showing up. It started with a shy teen named Brennan who knocked over paint buckets at the community center. Rather than scold him, Damien invited Brennan to help build birdhouses for the town park. That moment turned into a mentorship program, Brookmere Builders, where teens learned carpentry, responsibility, and pride in their work. Damien didn't preach. He guided with his hands, sanding wood beside them, showing that change comes from effort, not ego. Brennan would later say, "He didn't just teach us how to build things, he taught us how to believe in ourselves." Calla turned an old storage room in the clinic into a training space. She invited recent nursing grads from nearby towns to learn emergency rural care. They didn't have fancy equipment, but they had Calla's precision and calm. She didn't just teach technique, she taught empathy. "Your hands might save someone," she'd say, "but your voice keeps them alive." Watching her teach, Damien felt something deep, pride, love, and a quiet awe. Brookmere didn't just have a school, it had a future shaped by Calla's unwavering compassion. One golden autumn afternoon, as Damien read under the ash tree and Calla hummed while hanging laundry, Laya took her first steps. Wobbly, determined, and giggling, she walked straight toward her father. Damien dropped the book, arms wide. She fell into his lap and Calla ran over laughing through tears. "You saw it," she whispered. "I saw it," he confirmed, holding both of them tight. That moment wasn't photographed or shared. It was just theirs, more valuable than any headline Damien had ever chased. Damien and Calla bought an old farmhouse with peeling white paint, a creaky porch, and 5 stubborn chickens. They restored it together, him hammering floors, her painting walls, Laia toddling around with a plastic tool set. "It's not perfect," Damien said one night. "No," Calla replied, "it's better. It's ours." The house became a sanctuary for them, and a symbol for the town. That love, effort, and a little patience could transform even the most broken places into something beautiful. When a major network producer arrived in Brookmere wanting to feature The Millionaire Who Disappeared and Found Love, Damien and Calla declined. "This story isn't for headlines," Damien said. "It's for Laia, for this town, not for clicks." The producer left frustrated, but the couple stood firm. Brookmere was not a spectacle, it was sacred, and some things, like love, healing, and trust, were meant to stay unpolished and private. Damien began writing a children's book inspired by his daughter and the town's journey. Laia and the Ash Tree told the tale of a girl who helped a broken tree grow strong again, and in return, the tree gave her shelter, wisdom, and laughter. Illustrated by a local artist, the book became a quiet hit in nearby schools. But for Damien, the best moment was Laia sitting on his lap, tracing the cover and whispering, "That's me, isn't it, Daddy?" Calla started a mobile care unit, the Willow Wagon, that traveled to neighboring towns providing checkups, vaccinations, and prenatal care. Funded anonymously through Damien's connections, the wagon became a lifeline for hundreds. Calla trained volunteers, nurses, and even teens like Brennan. "No one," she declared during its launch, "should have to choose between distance and dignity." Damien stood quietly in the back, heartful, knowing this was her dream realized, and that he had helped build it by stepping back. Brookmere's first ever town-wide festival was named the Day of Thanks. Booths lined the schoolyard, kids ran wild, and Calla was honored with a quilt made by local families. Damien was given a wooden sculpture of the ash tree, hand-carved by Brennan. "To Mr. Wexler," Brennan said during the presentation, "who taught us what showing up really means." Damien choked back tears. He didn't expect praise anymore, but the sincerity of it still moved him deeply. The ash tree, now taller and stronger, stood as a silent witness to their journey. A local artist painted a mural of it in the school's entryway, its roots shaped like holding hands, its leaves filled with children's drawings. Calla and Damien would often sit under it in silence, Laia on a blanket beside them. "Funny," Calla said once. "That tree saw us before we saw each other." Damien nodded. "It's our quiet witness." One winter, Damien fainted during a community snow shoveling event. Panic struck Calla like lightning. It turned out to be exhaustion and low blood sugar. But in that terrifying moment, she realized just how much he meant to her. "You don't get to leave me now," she whispered at his bedside. "We're just getting started." He smiled weakly. "Wasn't planning on going anywhere, not without you." During Damien's brief recovery, the community rallied around the Wexler family. Hot meals, chores, even babysitting offers poured in. Brennan mowed their lawn. Mrs. Tully from the bakery made his favorite apple crumble. It was then Damien realized. He had stopped being the giver and become part of the circle. He was no longer an outsider. Brookmere was his, and he was Brookmere's. Calla was invited to speak at a healthcare conference in the city. Her speech, "Healing Without Headlines," received a standing ovation. She spoke not of money, but of moments. "Rural care isn't about what we don't have," she said. "It's about what we build with what we do." Damien watched from the crowd, more in love than ever. The world finally saw what he had known all along. Calla was extraordinary. Laia's first day of school at Sunrise Elementary felt like a full-circle moment. She carried a tiny backpack with her name stitched in yellow. Calla cried. Damien took photos from every angle. And as Laia ran through the school's doors beneath the mural of the ash tree, Damien whispered, "This is what we built for her." Damien began teaching a woodworking class for teens in the school's new workshop. Every project came with a story. "Wood has memory," he'd say, "and mistakes don't ruin it, they give it character." His students carved hope into cedar, pine, and oak. They built birdhouses, shelves, and eventually, a community garden gazebo. Brennan, now 19, became his teaching assistant. During a snowstorm, Calla helped deliver a baby in the back of the Willow Wagon. The heater failed, the road was blocked, and communication was down, but Calla remained calm, focused, and compassionate. She named the newborn Hope at the mother's request. Later, Damien held Calla and whispered, "You're the strongest person I know." One foggy morning, Damien and Calla renewed their vows beneath the ash tree. No guests, no ceremony, just two hearts whispering, still always. Laya watched from the porch, clapping with a stuffed bunny in hand. Again, she cheered. Damien laughed. We'll keep doing it, little one, forever. Damien's former company offered a lucrative memoir deal. Your story could inspire millions, they said. He replied, it already inspired the two people who matter most to me. That's enough, and he meant it. The old Damien had vanished, not lost, but evolved. They adopted a scruffy mutt from the shelter and named him Ash. He was loyal, loud, and absolutely in love with Laya. Together, the three became inseparable. Ash was more than a pet, he was part of the story. Another life they had saved and who in return saved them every single day with joy. A girl in the 2nd grade wrote Kala, I want to be a nurse like you. My mom says you're magic. Kala read it at the kitchen table, tears in her eyes. Damien kissed her temple. You're not magic, he whispered. You're better, you're real. Damien quietly retired the last of his investments and donated the final sum to scholarships for students from underfunded towns like Brookmere. No plaque, no foundation gala, just opportunities for others to write stories like his, stories rooted in second chances and shared futures. Kala started a wellness garden behind the clinic. Fresh herbs, benches, and a little library box. Patients could rest, read, breathe. Sometimes, she said, healing means a place to sit in the sun and just be. Damien built the benches himself. Laya painted them with tiny rainbows. On the school's anniversary, a mural was unveiled. Hands of all colors holding one another, roots intertwined beneath them, and above the ash tree towering, in its branches were 3 birds, one for Kala, one for Damien, and one for Laya. The town cheered. Kala cried. Damien held her close and said, we didn't just build a school, we built a life. Years from now, when people ask how Brookmere changed, they'll speak of a man who collapsed on a stage and rose into something more. They'll talk about a nurse who saw through the glitter and loved the heart beneath it, and they'll point to a little girl running in the schoolyard beneath the ash tree, proof that when you show up for the right reasons, miracles take root. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more heartwarming stories that prove love doesn't need a spotlight, just a place to grow.